All right, what's going on, guys? So the last video talked about how we set up our UI, as well as just some settings you should mess around with and familiarize yourself with. Today, we're going to be going through the tutorial and then talking about what the first main goal on the account is. Generally, I would highly advise staying free to play forever. If you can just pay for membership, obviously do that. That will get you much greater dividends than grinding out the GP for membership yourself. But if you don't want to pay real money for membership, what you can do is buy bonds with in-game GP. Now, bonds cost around 130 million coins, which is a lot, especially given that we have 25 right now. So that's going to be one of the first things that we end up working on is actually grinding the money to get a bond. Now, it is going to take quite a while, and this is one of the unfortunate downsides of playing truly free to play. But it is worth keeping in mind that there are still okay money makers that you can do while you're free to play. Some of them are pretty good even. In theory, if you spent your first couple of days, like, a couple hours a day, just making money, you can have a bond by the end of your first week, which does detract from the experience overall. So when I'm playing on this account, my goal isn't make maximum GGP. It's more how to curate your experience going through the game. So the big things we want to focus on are we want to get our members, we want to get our account ready for some of the end game stuff that RuneScape is built around. A lot of MMOs typically want to get to the end game as fast as possible so that you can start doing the fun stuff. RuneScape is pretty similar to that, but one of RuneScape's big issues is that doesn't really tell you how you're supposed to get there. There's a lot of things that you need to keep in mind in order to get to the end game, and one of them is quests. Quests in RuneScape are mandatory in a lot of ways. So if we look here, where's my mouse? If we look here, there's a blue icon. This opens up your quest menu. These are all, not all mandatory, but there's a lot of quests that are mandatory that you really want to be doing as soon as possible. I will not be putting a list of them anywhere because it's like 100 and something quests that you need to do. But generally, these range from a couple minutes to an hour plus. Most of these early game ones are going to be a couple of minutes, and most of the late game ones are going to be like a half hour to an hour and a half. So that's something worth keeping in mind, is that quests are something you have to do. There are mandatory quests that you have to do. Mandatory meaning that they're good for your account, not that you literally can't progress without them. So there are a lot of quests where you need a certain amount of quest points. Consequently, because quests are an integral part of this game and there's a lot of combat power locked behind quests, what I recommend you guys doing is just do 1 or 2 quests a day. It doesn't have to be in any particular order, just any quest that you can do, 1 or 2 of them a day. And doing that will set you on a path of 1, getting used to quests, and 2, once a big quest comes up that's time for you to do, you may incidentally have most of the requirements for it. And I think that building your account around completing quests is something you should do in the early and mid game. So once we finish the tutorial, which I'm probably just gonna speed through because it takes like 15-20 minutes and it's just following the L arrow. Once we finish the tutorial, I will start doing what the plan is for the account, and I will explain why I'm doing what I'm doing. So I will see you guys in a few minutes. If you're ever unsure of like what you need to do next, you saw up here how there were options. I just picked one of the options. I'm going to do that thing. So this whole tutorial section that I'm going to be speeding through, just know that what I'm doing whenever there's not an obvious direction for me to go is I'm just looking up here in the pathway and just clicking on one of the options here. So, okay. See you guys in a bit. Okay, so now that we have talked tutorial, you see that we have our first action bar. Now, what this is this is where all of your abilities go. So you see how this has an ability called Slaughter. Again, this is just telling you how your abilities work. It tells you that they have a cooldown. You can also put items on your action bar. If you put items on your action bar, they have a use option. So this crayfish, if I click it off my action bar, or if I set a keybind here, so we can customize a keybind and press 1. If I press 1, it'll eat the crayfish. Obviously, I'm full health, so it's not going to eat it, but just know after the tutorial section, you can eat when you're at full health. Okay, so now we're going to do the combat section, and we'll be back after this. Also, I didn't even realize it, but the action bar comes minimized by default. So if you press this button here to maximize it, this is actually where all of your other abilities are. I was wondering where that was. I thought it was going to show up at some point, but you know, I haven't done this, so even I learn something every now and then. While you're doing this, you just want to loot everything here. It's all, even if it's not like ultra useful, you don't really have anything else to do and you're not really getting any other gear. So when this loot window is open, you can just press spacebar and it'll pick up everything. So this just opened up a couple of my ability books. I'm just gonna put these over here with the magic book. Again, these aren't really things that you're gonna be looking at very often, so just putting them in here with your magic stuff and your prayer book is totally fine. At some point, you're gonna get rid of these entirely because you'll have your action bars set up, but that's not for quite a while. So just know that that's not the biggest deal. You can just put these down here for the time being. Okay, so that is the first part of the tutorial. The rest of this stuff is optional. I am going to go through all of it, but I'm just going to skip it. So in the video, you guys aren't going to see me do all of this. But just so you guys know, at this point, you can pretty much start exploring the world and doing whatever you want. So you can either finish doing the tutorials, which I'm going to do off screen, and then I will come back once they're all done, or once I experience anything meaningful that I feel like you guys should know, or you can just skip straight to the next part after this, which is going to be, again, exploring the world and making our first little bit of money and working on some of the bigger projects for the account and just things that every account should be doing. So I will see you guys whenever. Something I figured I would bring up, there are a lot of players here who are also fighting these cows for the range path. They're not looting the raw beef, which is decently pricey. So I'm just looting it since I'm already here and I need the money anyways. This is like 20k in my inventory and I've been ranging for all of 30 seconds. So it is worth just picking it up, especially if no one else is. In this early game, every little bit of money helps. So when you guys are doing the magic part, you need to wait for your character to run up in melee range and do this execute animation. If you spam click, it won't work. So just be aware that if you're wondering why this isn't working or why it's taking so long, that's why you need to wait for this animation to play out. So for the fight with Magic Stick, it was really fast. I didn't have time to hit record while I was doing it. But when she says to cast the Confuse spell at the end of the fight, you want to click off of Magic Stick and then click Confuse in your spell book. If you try to press it while you're hitting the boss, then it just won't do anything. So sometimes it's a weird quirk with Red Revolution and the tick system, which is how RuneScape times its game, that whenever you need to cast a manual spell out of your spell book, it's always better to click off of the boss, then click the spell, than it is to like spam click this while you're hitting the boss. It's just not consistent how it works out, unfortunately. Again, kind of a curse of the tick system and just it being a relatively old game. So after you complete the 3 combat trials, it'll give you an introduction to like 10 more skills. Again, I'm just going to do all of them. My guess is probably going to take about an hour to do all of these. But yeah, that's what the deal is. Again, you're just following the yellow arrow. Once we get to a point where we need to leave this starting area, I will be back to explain what we're going to do next. But yeah, until then, you just want to go through all of these tutorials and just explains how all of these skills work. So right now, I just finished the agility tutorial. It just walks you through this course once. Now you'll unlock an important mobility spell called a Surge once you get 5 agility. So what I would do is just stay here until you have 5 agility. It should take a couple minutes. Okay, so we just hit 5 agility. It took us 4 laps. And what this unlocks us is Surge. Now, Surge is an ability that moves you forward 10 tiles. This is a blink. It cannot go through walls with few exceptions. We don't really have to go over that now, but basically it's just a blink. You use it. Now this is just really good for mobility, especially when you're crossing really long distances. Also, you can keybind this. So I'm going to put this on my action bar. I'm going to put this right here and I will customize keybind. I will set it to what I have Surge set to my main account, which is Control 8. I have a gaming mouse, that's why it's set to this. You can set this to any key that's easily accessible. And now, whenever it's off cooldown, I can just Surge and it'll send me flying in a direction of my choice. Now, Surge will only move you in the direction that you're facing, so just be aware of that. But yeah, this is incredibly useful just for getting around. I highly recommend just getting that 5 agility and knocking it out. But yeah, okay. I'm going to finish up the rest of the tutorials and I will be back. One of the other things to keep in mind too about Surge is that it does require a long line of sight. So if there is something obstructing you, it won't blink to the other side of it. You'll just go as far forward as you can. Kind of annoying. Once you get used to it, it's not that big of a deal. Yeah, once it's off cooldown, I will show what exactly I mean. So for instance, I could Surge this way, but it's just going to take me up to this wall instead of Surge be all the way over here. So just keep that in mind when you're traversing. The next thing I did was unlock the Summoning Familiar. You get this just from the Summoning tutorial. This, you can put this wherever you want. Typically, I have this by itself. So eventually, we're going to get rid of this activity tracker, and I would put it up here. But for the time being, I'm just going to put it here. I don't think it matters too much where it is, at least for right now. It's going to matter a lot more once we're actually using our Summoning Familiars. But I would generally stay pretty far away from summoning, at least for a little while. It's entirely too expensive to train, and you can only get it to level 5 until you're a member. So, yeah. All right, so I just finished all the tutorials, took about half hour total, and the only thing of note is that farming is the only skill in the game that takes place in real time. So your farming patches will take real life minutes and hours to grow. So just keep that in mind when you're doing farming. But generally, as you get more familiar with farming, you're going to be doing farm runs, meaning that every hour to hour and a half, or even sooner than that, every like 45 minutes, depending on what you're planting, you're going to want to stop what you're doing and then go do a farm run because, again, it's a real-time activity. It's the only skill in the game that's like that. So if you don't particularly enjoy that aspect, then what some people do is they'll just do like one farm run a day, or they'll check on their stuff when they log in and when they log out. That could be a good thing that you can do. I do believe farming is a member skill, so you can't get it above 5 anyways, so that doesn't super matter for the time being, but it is worth mentioning that it is a real-time skill. Okay, so now that we have finished all of the main tutorials in this area, it wants us to go to Lumbridge, which is the former beginner area. So the first thing we're actually going to do is there are all of these things called lodestones. If you press this button, this is the home teleport button. You see there are all these things called lodestones. The first thing we're going to do is activate all of these first. This will make it much easier for us to teleport and get around the world. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to speed up me activating all of the lodestones, but that's the plan. So you're going to see this at like 5 times speed or whatever speed I end up going at. So when we were on our way to the Drainer Lodestone, we got a thing to start the Necromancy quest. We will come back to this at some point, but for now, we're just going to lock in all the lodestones. Again, this is right next to this lodestone, so whenever we're ready to do this, we can just teleport back here. Because I ran out of run energy, I am resting right now, so once I'm at 100, we're going to go back and keep doing the lodestones. So now we're going to head north to Edgeville. There's going to be 2 lodestones we're not activating quite yet. One is in the wilderness. We don't currently have any reason to go in the wilderness, and all of the enemies in the wilderness are aggressive. So it's going to be kind of annoying to actually get to the lodestone. And the other one is quest locked. So we will go and get that one at some point, but it's not a major deal. Since we are passing by Edgeville, I figured we will talk about the Grand Exchange. This is where all of the buying and trading happens, basically, in RuneScape. So whenever you have an item that you want to sell, you sell it in the Grand Exchange. Whenever there's an item you want to buy, you buy in the Grand Exchange. Because we're passing through here, we're just going to sell all of the raw meat and hides that we picked up. And the main early game moneymaker we're going to do is right here in this area. So I will take a little detour to do that first. And after we do that, we'll keep unlocking the lodestones. So let's sell. I think these wolf bones are relatively pricey. We'll sell the leather, the strips of cloth, and the raw meat. Okay, who do I need to talk to? We need to talk to Brugson. This is not a good name. That's not it. Okay, so this guy basically explains how the Grand Exchange works, so we'll just go through this. You guys can watch this on your own. You have to talk to him in order to figure this out, so I'm just going to skip through all of this. Okay, so now we know the Grand Exchange works. I'm just going to sell all of this stuff because it should be relatively pricey. When you're a new player, the margins that you're trading on really isn't a big deal. So I personally would just put everything in for minus 20% so you can just get your money and start using it. This stuff will probably sell eventually, so I'm just going to leave it here. For the time being, I don't think there's anything I want to buy right now. So I'm just going to leave this money here and we're going to keep going. So we're going to head down to the Varrock lodestone, which is where our first moneymaker is going to be. So again, I will catch you guys in a bit. So now that we're at the Varrock lodestone, we want to head east. Over here, you're going to see some berry bushes, and this is our moneymaker. So you're going to see here, there are these Kadava bushes. This is what we're going to do. Basically, whenever we come by Varrock, we're just going to pick 6 of these, then hop worlds. These are world instants. They're not account instants. So if you hop worlds, it will just refill the bush. So we're going to hop worlds until our inventory is full. And we're just going to keep hopping to random non-members worlds until we finish all the inventories. Also, in case it wasn't clear how I was hopping worlds, if you hit escape, you just click the hop worlds button to open up this menu. While you are a non-member, you should just set this to free only, because knowing the members worlds doesn't do anything for you. And it makes traversing the worlds a little bit easier. Make sure you don't hop to this legacy only world. It will mess up your interface. It's ultra annoying. Okay, so apparently someone's been here, which is annoying. This is one of the better money-making methods for free to play. Once we dedicate a ton of time towards just making money and nothing else, we'll go over why we're doing this method. But just know these are pretty pricey. They're like 5k a piece, I think. Yeah, they're 5k a piece, and we can get a full inventory relatively quickly. This takes like a couple minutes. And you have 28 slots in inventory, so this is 148k for very little effort. Now, a bond is like 130 mil, so that does mean you need to do this quite a few times, but we're only going to do this for some cursory starter cash, and then once we have enough cash to start doing the actual moneymaker, we're going to do that. Okay, we have one more world hop. I didn't actually time this, but this is like a couple minutes. Let's see if I can check in chat. When did I start hopping worlds? Yeah, this took 2.5, 3 minutes to pick all of these berries, so very, very quick for how much profit it is. Yeah, 140k for 2.5 minutes of effort. It's pretty hard to beat that. So now we're going to go more east. This is for the archaeology tutor. The main reason we're grabbing this is that it gives us access to archaeology, which is arguably one of the most important skills in the game, and it gives us access to the archaeology book, which is a teleport that is relatively close to a bank. It's one of the only one-click teleports in for free-to-play, so it's very important that we actually go and do this. Again, because this is a tutorial, you're just going to do whatever the yellow lines say. Notably, by doing the archaeology tutorial, you do get to increase your max health by 500. That's a very substantial amount, basically for the entire game. It does get to a point where it's not as useful, but it is very, very good for a very long time. Also, this character, Ezreal, is a reference to League of Legends, which I think is very funny. Okay, so I am 99% sure that the rest of this content is locked behind members, so we're not going to be touching archaeology for basically the rest of our time as a non-member. But getting the book is very important. It's a close teleport to a bank, and it's just we were in the area anyways, so why not? This also conveniently puts us near one of the places where we want to pick up a lodestone, which is very nice. I'm skipping this cutscene because I don't care. Okay, so now we are right here. So we're going to go to Alcard, hit this lodestone, grab the one in Lumbridge, and then we will grab this one in Port Sarum a little bit later, probably after we do the Lumbridge stuff. But yeah, that's the plan for right now. Honestly, I like this pathing a lot, so I'd probably recommend this pathing just because, again, it picks you up a lot of stuff that is good to have. I'm not 100% sure where we're supposed to go in Lumbridge. Take the boat to, on the south docks of Tower. Oh, I see. Interesting. Well, we already didn't do this. So another option you could have done was fast travel to Lumbridge from Taverley, which is the city south of the starting area. That is an option. I like this pathway a little bit more just because it gives us access to more of the game. It opens up a lot of the lodestones. Personally, I thought that was a better path, but obviously you can just do that if you want to click on this up here and do what this says. It's entirely up to you. So now we're just going to go back to Taverley so that we can board this boat to Lumbridge to advance the task system. It does look like you have to do this anyways in order to unlock this. So at this point in the game, we are in the open world aspect where it is up to you what you decide to do. As I said earlier, quests are incredibly important and something that we have to do in a lot of ways. So the first thing I would do is change this from timeline to free/members. This will just sort it into free and members. We want to do basically all of these free-to-play quests. There's not a great reason not to. A lot of these have pretty decent rewards, but even besides that, something to consider is that there are quest point requirements for some of the mandatory quests we need to do later. Once we are a member, we will start talking about the big goals and what I'm working on to get to those big goals, which is stuff that you guys should be working on. But in the meantime, we are essentially just doing a couple of quests and making some money, and that's pretty much it. Another thing that you want to do is you want to hit show locked. We want to be able to do all of these free-to-play quests, even the ones that have requirements. I believe the only one with a real requirement is a Dragon Slayer. So this is probably going to be one of the ones that we're working on the most. But this just wants us to be strong enough to actually kill a dragon. This says we should be level 50 in combat skills. So however you want to train combat is ultimately going to be up to you. What my recommendation would be is to teleport to Draenor, which is right. Oh, that's Falador. Let's teleport to Draenor, which is right here. Now we'll go and hit the Port Sarim lodestone because we have to. Well, we don't have to, but it's right here, so why not? So we'll come over here to the Port Sarim lodestone. We will come back for the necromancy thing, but that's not really. I tabbed out for a second and that highwayman almost blasted me, so don't do that. But yeah, first things first, let's grab this lodestone. Okay, and then we are going to go back to Draenor, and we are going to do the necromancy quest. This quest is also very short. It's like 5 minutes, but again, it's a good way to get you started. Okay, so now we're back in Draenor. The other big upside of doing quests is that you get quest points, and these quest points, in addition to being requirements for some of the later skills, there is also a NPC called May who gives you money for completing quests. This is members only, but it does mean once we become a member, assuming we've done all these free-to-play quests, we are going to get a decent influx of money, which is nice. So that's just another incentive to do some of these quests that you're going to want to do anyways. Just getting a little bit of extra money for doing something that you should be doing anyways is always good. So that's what I recommend. But yeah, we're going to do this quest. There isn't anything super crazy about this quest. It's super straightforward. It takes like 2 minutes and it's not hard at all. The quest basically walks you through the entire thing. Typically, I recommend reading all of these quests and watching all of the cutscenes. The dialogue is usually pretty funny at the very least and really well written at its best. But I've already done all of these quests, so I don't care. So I'm just going to spacebar through all of it for the sake of the video. Honestly, that little montage is pretty cool. So, spoiler alert, Raciel is where we're going to stop the progression on this account, at least for the point of this series. Once you can get to Raciel and do him comfortably, you should be adept enough at the game that you can make all of the money that you want to make, and so that you can do all of the grinds you want to do, and you'll be able to fund all those things. Generally, once you can do Raciel, the rest of the game is your oyster. You can do whatever you want. Once I get there, it's going to be quite a while. But once I get there, this account's journey is going to be over. I'm probably going to use the account just for other stuff off stream and for non-content purposes, but that's the end goal, just so you guys know. Wait, Ted's looking kind of classy. Okay, Ted. Don't know why he has glasses given that he doesn't have eyes, but... Okay, and that's the necromancy quest done. That took literally 5 minutes, maybe. This little montage just shows you some of the landmarks here. This is a bunch of stuff we basically can't interact with until we are a member. So this doesn't matter for quite a bit. But again, the whole point of this series is once we get to this place, I'll explain what you should and shouldn't be doing. But okay, so we are finished with that. That's the first quest we've done on the account. And I'm probably going to do one or two more before I get off for the night. But since I don't really have a ton that I want to do today, I'm just going to do another inventory of the cadaver berries. And that's probably going to be it. So once I finish the inventory of cadaver berries, I will sell everything. And we will just take a look at where we're at. We've been playing on the account for about an hour and a half. And we'll show where we're at after the first hour and a half and what the main goal is for tomorrow and just the next couple of days. Okay, so we finished collecting all these berries. Now I'm going to head up to the Grand Exchange. Unfortunately for non-members, like 95% of the game is locked behind members, so there's going to be a lot of unfortunately for non-members in this series, at least in the beginning. But unfortunately for non-members, we don't have any items that can teleport us super close to it. There is one that I can make, but it takes a relatively long time to get because it requires me to be decently high combat, and it's 4 RNG drops, so that's probably not happening. Yeah, now we're here at the Grand Exchange. We will sell all of our cadaver berries. We'll see how much money we have. And then we will talk about what's the plan coming next. We can also sell all this ectoplasm we just got. We can just buy it back later. Okay, so these will probably sell overnight, so I'm not super worried about these. Let's see how much a bond costs so we can see how much money we need to make. So these are 135 mil. That's a lot. I will not understate how much money that is. That is a lot, especially to grind as a free-to-play player. What I would say is this is a small goals type of thing. Basically, when we are making money. I just did the cadaver berries. I did a cursory search on Google just to see what the best money maker to be in free to play. This is a decent one. Another one that you can do, funny enough, is killing chickens. So that's probably something else we're going to do, because we do need to train up our combat stats so that we can eventually be strong enough to beat Dragon Slayer. But besides killing chickens and cadaver bearers, we want to build up enough money that we can do some of the better money making methods. For instance, the best money making method in free to play is like 10 mil profit an hour, but it requires you have a bunch of money up front. So that's one of the main reasons we didn't just start with that. So once we have about a mil, we'll probably stop collecting cadaver berries, or at least we won't be collecting them very often. Basically, every time I pass by the area, I'll probably do a full inventory, just because more money is more better. But yeah, that's going to be it for this first episode. I gave you guys a pretty good game plan. Collect your cadaver berries, do a couple quests a day, kill some chickens. Chickens basically can't kill you, so you can kill them with any style. I would say that the main goal is to probably get all of your stats to 20 or 30 killing chickens. And then you want to bury the bones, collect all the feathers, all of the raw meat, all of the eggs, and just bank all of them. The banking is by far the most tedious part of it, but it has to be done, right? Once I have enough money that I feel comfortable enough to start moving on to the next part of the game plan, that's when I will have a new video for you guys. But yeah, for the time being, just every day I log in, I'm going to do 1 to 5 quests, depending on if they're long or short. And once we finish up all the free-to-play quests, the main goal is just going to be to rush membership, because at that point, there just isn't anything else for free-to-play to offer us. So yeah, for you guys, that's what I would suggest you do in your free-to-play accounts. If you're going to just buy membership, which I recommend because the GP grind of free-to-play sucks, if you're going to just buy membership, then I still say do all of your free-to-play stuff first and still make your little bit of money killing your chickens and doing your cadaver berries first. There's no reason not to make that money first, but once you finish all of the quests, instead of doing a huge GP grind after, just buy your membership, and then you can skip to, 1 or 2 episodes later from now where we are a member. We can start doing the member stuff. But yeah, that's it for this episode. It's probably going to be pretty long, but hopefully it was relatively informative. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.